Next thing I'll talk about is the second way of increasing your conversions is to look at qualitative data. So qualitative data means what users are doing on your site, not why are they on the site, right? So with Google Analytics, we can see why some people came to our site, where they came from, and where things happen. But we do not know why those things happen. So we're going to see why with video recordings and also heat maps using a tool like ReactFlow. Again, today is a demo of ReactFlow. So what we can do immediately, I'm going to show you some quick case studies, is why should we use video recordings and also heat maps. I'm going to give you a case study from QDis. Now, QDis was a client, and I can share this, yeah? It's a quick case study. So we had this landing page, you see on the right here, a landing page for lead capture that we ran using Google Ads. So that means we used this page, we ran a campaign on Google Ads and drove traffic into Google Ads, into this landing page. So this is typical for a lot of businesses. If you are in a business of collecting leads, whether you're an insurance agent, whether you are someone who collects leads, yeah? If your business is to collect leads and then close later using a call, this would be something you want to actually take a look at. So first of all, some questions that we ask is, which benefit was the key selling point, right? When it comes to our landing page, how will we know that? Number two, did we waste any ad budgets because the page didn't load or a button wasn't working? Things like that happen because today we have all sorts of different devices from laptops, mobile phones, and all these devices have different screen sizes and different environments that they are used in, right? So sometimes a visitor might visit your site on a mobile phone, maybe on an older Android phone, and something does not load on that phone, right? But the thing about us as website owners is we do not know that. So the second question is, did we waste any ad budgets because a page didn't load or a button at the press did not work, right? So we want to know that. Number three, how can we improve lead conversions? So we know that we are driving people and traffic into this page. How can we improve these lead conversions? Okay, so I want to take a look at a video recording on that particular page itself and see what you can observe from this quick video recording. So I'm going to get this started. It's going to take a few seconds. And I want to take a look at this. Now you can see it running, right? All right. So very quickly, what I noticed from here immediately is that people don't read, right? We have so many tags, beautifully written, beautiful copywriting, but this particular person did not stop to even read what we have to say. What he or she is doing is literally just looking at the headlines. So from that moment on, we know that headlines are really important, right? And then we look at the form itself. We know that they put into the form, and then this user came into this page, the ending page, click on the middle button, and then left, right? So we know their habits of looking at the landing page. So from here, we can make all sorts of different types of improvements. So we know that for a start, the headlines in the beginning was a bit too big, right, for a mobile phone, and he or she would have to scroll a lot to see different things. Now let me show you another screen recording and see what you observe. So this is another user. It's a bit longer. So I'm going to hit on play, and I want you to observe, what do you see? Okay. So we can see that users are actually scrolling through the page itself. So these are basically users that we see. These are recordings that users have of users who have used our site, right? Now, do you see how fast this particular person have actually, scroll around without even reading? Of course, there are a few more key points that you cannot really see from this small little screen that you're watching me right now on. But one of the things that I noticed in this recording here, the second recording, is that in our forms, let me see if I can stop this for you, right? If you look at our forms right here, oops. I'm trying to stop this at the point that I want to. All right. If you look at this point right here, what is our name, email address, your phone number, I'm interested of becoming. You can see that on a mobile phone, our form is a little bit too small for people to read the exact sentence. So that's also a UX issue. Now, this is a lead capture form, for example. So this is something that we can actually close one eye on. But if this is your checkout page, this is a problem because they cannot read. Right? what you have in that placeholder of your form. So that is bad. So what we do immediately is we look at ways to actually make it easier to see, smaller on a phone, so that a phone user can also read the whole sentence that we have on the form itself. So these some improvements to make after looking at a video recording, because you cannot do this if you are just relying on things like Google Analytics, right? Okay, next case study. So this is also by QDIS. So QDIS, right? I'm doing some promotion for them right now. So QDIS, they have two types of programs. One is a preschool program called the Starters Preschool, and the second one is the Scholars program for primary enrichment. Now, I know some of you may not be in the childcare industry, but basically, layman's term apart, starters are for the starters. Preschool is for smaller kids, right? Age maybe 2+ up to 5. And the primary enrichment is basically for the older kids, right? From 5 years old up to maybe 8 or 9. So from this heat map here, this is known as a heat map, you can see immediately that the Scholars primary enrichment that you can see above is not as popular as Starters Preschool. So from here itself, I can tell that QDIS, most of their business is in the Starters Preschool niche, not so much in the primary enrichment, right? So again, this is just a quick screenshot, but when you have heat maps on your site, you can tell so many different things. You can tell like what users are interested in, what they are not interested in, what they are clicking on, and what their habits when it comes to your site itself. So this is so important when it comes to e-commerce, or even when you're looking at collecting lead captures and more. So this will actually give you the answer to why users are browsing your site but not checking out, not buying from you. Okay, second thing, are there pages with errors? So sometimes when we run e-commerce sites, we have so many buttons here and there, so many pages. Again, as I said, different types of users on different types of devices. Sometimes they would hit problems on our site and without us knowing it, right? Maybe they try to buy something and you click that buy button, but your buy button does not work because you have a JavaScript error or something like that. So how would you know if there's an error in your site or your page somewhere? So one of the ways we can do it is to use things like ReactFlow again. And that's why I recommend this using, and talk about and look at ways we can actually, get notified when someone hits an error on the site itself. Okay, so I'm going to show you this live again. I'm going to go back to my screen. So we're going to go back to ReactFlow again. And within ReactFlow, we also have different types of recordings. For example, I can go into the different types of recordings. I'm going to show you some recordings, okay? So let me go into list of recordings, and basically, within the account itself, you can collect up to 2,000 recordings of 2,000 users. So let me just look at one recording and see what we can find. All right, so let me just see. Okay, so I'm going to zoom down into this one here. So we can see immediately, right, from video recordings, this user is a new user. Okay, I'm looking at this particular one, right, 118, recording number 118, if you can see from my screen. This particular user is from Puchong in Malaysia. He or she is using a desktop, using Mac OS, meaning that he or she is on a Apple MacBook, using the OS of Sierra, and using Chrome to enter my site. Okay, now he landed on improved conversions, right? But this particular user came from this page called rubencheng.com/growth marketing techniques. So this is a referrer who read my blog and then clicked something and went into improved conversion on digitalkit.org 6 hours ago. And he or she spent around 1 minute 38 seconds on the site. So to watch this recording, we can just click on this button here, this big button here, and click on play. And immediately we can see whatever this user is doing on our page, how did it reacted with our whole page itself, what he did, what he clicked on, and everything else. So this is what the user did on our site. Now, if you're wondering why the tags are all hidden up, it's because of the GDPR privacy. So when you use video recordings, you will see this thing happening on your site. Of course, they won't record whatever these users are looking at, and all the text and everything the user enters on the site would be masked up and put as dots this way, right? So you won't be able to see the text, but you can make a sense about what they're doing on the page, what they are clicking on, and also look at what they do. So you can see that this user, right, he's just scrolling around looking at, do you see that clicks? He's clicking all over the headlines, expecting the headline to be something that is clickable. But in this sense, in this case, it's not clickable. So if we know and we notice that a lot of users are clicking on headlines because they thought it's clickable, but we're not making it clickable, then we ought to do something to make that headline clickable, right? So in this case, I know that this user is a bit confused and is not finding what he or she is wanting to find on this page itself. So we have to fix this page, right? Again, you can see you scroll down and click on the bottom footer. So how many of you have a site today and you have your bottom of footer not optimized? Look at the end there. He or she is clicking really fast. I'm going to go back into I'm going to slow down the recording so you can see the exact action that this user is doing. So slowing it down to 1 time. So this is real time, yeah? So you click on the headlines. See that? See that? Click all the way here and then go to the bottom footer here and start clicking on my logo. And my logo is not clickable, so sadly, see? Click few times on that logo and click 1 or 2 times on my email. Drop me an email. Now, I hope you can see that. So these are basically findings that we can never tell when it comes to looking at quantitative data. So this is basically qualitative data. I'm showing you a quick example, but you can do this for your e-commerce site or whichever lead op insight that you have and find out what people are doing in the site, what they're looking at, and how you can optimize the whole experience to be able to hit the KPIs and goals that you set out for that website itself. Okay, so moving on. So that's video recordings, and I think it's so useful because we can see so many things, learn so many things. Now, next thing I'm going to show you is the heat maps. So I'm going to go back to recordings. So recordings is basically very clear, but the problem with recordings is you're looking at one by one. Of course, you can actually tag those users and zoom down to those recordings you want to only watch, not just watch everything, watch what you want to see. But if you want to see something on an aggregate scale, meaning that you want to see a data set of a few people, what we can leverage on is then the heat maps. So the heat maps is basically, let me just show you the heat maps of the home page. So heat map is basically an aggregate data of maybe 100 or a few thousand of people, depending on the visitors you have, right? So here I have a bit of some heat map data, and you can see on this heat map here, we can precisely see this heat here, we can precisely see where people are clicking on our site. They're clicking on the button, right? They're clicking on the text below the button. So few of my things that they're clicking here is they're clicking on the text itself, but the text are not clickable. So for some reason, they're clicking on the pictures. Again, the pictures are not clickable. So we might want to make that picture clickable. All right, you can see them clicking on this link itself. Okay, so from here itself, I can see that people are interested in the first topic, but not so much in this one here. That's something to take in as well. All right, and as we scroll down below, nobody has clicked anything below. So we can actually remove those whole redundant things here because we know an average of our users do not actually go bother clicking about this thing here. So we can just remove this thing out. We don't need that, make our site load faster and remove the whole thing here. So that's one thing we can look at. So if we go back to the hover, we can then see where our users are hovering around. So where people are hovering around is where their eyes are at. Because when we use a computer, we are actually moving our mouse scroll according to where our eyes are looking. If you notice yourself, right? So what they're doing here is they're tracking the mouse movements and seeing what we are seeing here is basically where their eyes are looking at on your site itself. So that's how it works. So we know that a typical user focuses on the headline here on the left and then on the right. That's something to take in, right? They also focuses a lot on the top here, right? The one are red, which is where they focus on. And as we scroll down, we can see where they are focusing on as well. Of course, you see a lot of dots here, but this is something that I understand because I know the layout of my website, right? And okay, so again here, we can see a lot of them have their eyes focused on the headline plus the picture here, but they're not so particularly interested in this or this. So this tells me something. Now, this picture here is yellow, so it's bright, right? But this picture here is dark. So maybe what I can do to optimize this page is to change the pictures into brighter images because, well, for some reason, my visitors prefer looking at a bright image like the yellow one here. And it's also one reason why we are so bright in our website are so bright. And then the darker ones, the eyes don't actually look there. They're bored, right? So it doesn't catch the eye. Let's look at more. So we can see that people also read my footer of the site. So many things we can learn from this heat map alone. So this is heat maps. I think this is something that we all should have installed on our site. ReactFlow will be something that you can trial with, and with the deal that we have going on, this will be a great thing to get started with.